In case you're new here, let me catch you up to speed. I'm working on a new adult fantasy novel about a girl who goes on a mission to the underworld to save herself and her best friend from a vengeful water goddess. The main premise of my book revolves around the idea of second chances in life, which is why you'll hear me referring to it as Second Chancers until I have a final title. At this point, I was fighting for my life during finals, so I decided to take a break from writing my essays to work on my book. So, yeah, I was taking a break from writing to write, but it's different, okay? You understand if you're a writer. I started using TrackBear to keep track of my progress, and so far I think I've written every day. Yeah, I've written every day this week, mostly because it's fun to add new word count into TrackBear. And so far this month I've written around 4,600 words for my project, which is great because we're less than halfway through the month, so there's still a lot of time to get this draft done, which I think it will be done this month, which is very exciting. Writing scenes that seem so similar is low-key like grating on my nerves a little bit. Like, it's so repetitive and it's hard to figure out how to vary certain scenes to make them different. Like, I feel like a lot of the scenes are kind of a repetition of things that have already happened because they're crossing over to realms and going down secret tunnels and passageways and stuff. There's only like so many ways you can vary kind of saying similar things, and I know like arguably if you're like a really good writer you could write about the same thing like hundreds of times and make it totally different every way. The problem is I haven't quite figured out how to master that skill yet, so I think I'll definitely have fun with this during revisions, but right now it's just a little frustrating because a lot of what I've written is sounding the same, which I don't like. Okay, little update. I haven't written much recently. I think it's been about like 2 days since I last wrote, but I was actually reading over my manuscript, or what I have of it right now, and I was having a lot of fun reading over it today. It was actually very reassuring to read some of the last stuff that I wrote, because I feel like every time I'm reading something new that I wrote that I haven't really gotten the chance to read over yet, it's really like I'm reading something new for the first time, and it's always an exciting feeling, and it's even more exciting if I feel like the work that I actually managed to create was actually decent. So reading over it today just made me really excited to keep working on the project, and I'm excited for when these exams are over so that I can get back to working on it. Hey guys, I just got my Goodreads wrap, so I thought I'd share it with you guys. I don't know, just thought it would be fun. So here's my 2024 year in books. Apparently I've read 12,386 pages and 34 books so far. The shortest book I read was Maria, or The Wrongs of Women, and the longest book I read at 771 pages was The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. The average book length that I read was 364 pages, which I feel like that's pretty normal. And the most popular book that I read was The Hunger Games. That's actually kind of crazy that I read The Hunger Games this year. I kind of forgot I did that, but I feel like that whole series is like a 5-star series. I don't think about it often, but I do think about it, which of course is a good sign. When I read all the books, I think I gave them all 4 stars. But I think altogether they would be 5 stars. Like, I think they're really powerful, cool stories. The only reason I gave them 4 stars was because a lot of the book revolved around the romance between Peeta and Katniss, or Katniss and Gale. I just like felt like that was kind of lacking a little bit. Yeah, that's why I gave them 4. I feel like it would have been a stronger book for me if maybe the relationship was either less of an aspect of the book, or maybe just like changed a little bit to make me care a little bit more about Peta as like a romantic interest rather than a friend. It felt like a lot of the setup of the book was Peta being Katniss's friend, which is fine, but I don't know. Don't really know how to don't really know how to explain what I'm trying to say. My average rating was a 3.6, which is pretty high. I think that's a good sign because it means I was reading books that I know I would have liked. I think it takes a lot for me to give a book a 5-star, but honestly, that sounds like I was giving a decent amount of books 4s, which is good. That means I enjoyed the book. The highest rated book I read on Goodreads was also The Hunger Games. And then it just shows the books that I read today. Okay, hold on a second. Let me find it. I read it on my Kindle, so I don't really know why I'm trying to find it. Okay. I finished reading Magnolia Parks. Not very much to say on this. I tried reading this. Okay, I bought this book last year. I tried reading it last year during my exam season. It was like around this same time of year actually when I started reading it. I thought it would be camp because everyone was describing it like Gossip Girl, and I think I got like 25 pages in and I just had to stop reading. I picked it up later in the year, tried starting from the beginning again, had to stop reading. The beginning of this book is like really rough, and honestly the rest of it is also kind of rough. I know a lot of people really love this book, and I can see why if they like drama shows like Gossip Girl or stuff like that. It is kind of like Chuck and Blair. The problem is I don't like Chuck. Like people love Chuck and Blair because they're like the toxic couple, like the thing, but like I don't like that relationship. So I read it thinking like, oh, Gossip Girl, but not thinking Chuck and Blair, because oh my gosh, literally Chuck from Gossip Girl is so, when you rewatch Gossip Girl, he's just so questionable, so weird. BJ in this book giving similar vibes. Honestly, even Magnolia, she was pretty much kind of a copy of Blair, but I do feel like Blair, because Gossip Girl is like 7 seasons or whatever, Blair had a pretty decent amount of character development, went through like some interesting story arcs, but like even so, if I watched Gossip Girl, I was the kind of person who was like, Dan and Blair are the better pairing. I don't know if this isn't making sense to you if you've never watched Gossip Girl, but like I'm just saying Gossip Girl because everyone compares this book to Gossip Girl. I would agree in a certain sense, but I also think that Gossip Girl is more enjoyable in a TV form because reading it was just super aggravating. The relationship is toxic, but it was weird because it wasn't toxic. Well, it was toxic both ways, but it felt like BJ was a lot more toxic than Magnolia. And then they like, neither of them would take responsibility for their actions. So it's like, okay, like this isn't fun. I might read the second book even though I didn't really like the first one that much. So I'll see. And that's just my Goodreads update. That's kind of all I wanted to say. I think I'm going to write a little bit, just make some coffee, and just generally have a good time. Let's get this bread. Okay, I tried to light the candle and then I ran out of lighter fluid. Guess there's no ambiance today. I got this mixed berry chomping, and I've never tried this one before, so we'll try it together. Oh wow, okay. It's purple. This one's good. I think what I'm gonna do now is spend some time writing on my phone. It's just more convenient and it feels like less pressure right now, which I need. Unfortunately, don't have the candle to help me in this little morning writing session, but that's all right. We will make do with what we have, which is nothing except this coffee, but at least we have coffee, you know? I think that all the Chobani creamers that I've tried have been good, and they've also been what they say they are. Like, they actually taste like the flavor they're supposed to. I kind of want to try the pistachio one because recently I've been really into pistachio. Like, I tried pistachio ice cream, pistachio syrup. My friends, they're really into pistachios for some reason, so I think a pistachio creamer has a lot of potential. I'm in a part of my book where my main characters, if you know anything about this book, there's a labyrinth. They finally made it into the labyrinth, and now they're going down or they've just reached the end of a dark staircase, and they're essentially trying to find like a portal to go to another realm. It's gonna be a bit difficult. Well, yes, traveling to another realm is a bit difficult. It's been kind of annoying because I think, as I said earlier, it's just very repetitive, and it's difficult to find different ways to say similar things, but also it's like, if what I'm saying is so similar, why am I even including it in the book? Like, isn't it just assumed? The problem is, I don't think you can really assume what's going on here because there are characters who haven't actually experienced this in the scene, and also they are in a different location. It's not like I'm writing them doing the same exact thing. I don't really know how else to explain this, but in my book, they go through a lot of like dark tunnels, dark woods, forests, gardens, things like that. And it's just kind of difficult trying to find new and exciting ways to explain them, trying to find new things to have happen to my characters. I think on a good note, I have been reading over my old writing, and it's kind of weird because I feel like some of it looks significantly different from other parts, which I guess is to be expected because whenever you're writing, you're always in like a different headspace, so it's never guaranteed that your writing style is going to sound exactly the same every time you write. I would like some consistency, and I would like the consistency to be more of the style that I think is actually good, because I do think there are some chapters that I've done pretty well, like significantly better than other chapters, so I would like all my chapters to look like that. That's really what editing's for, though. Yeah, I'm just gonna sit here, write, maybe transcribe. I think writing is easier for me. I used to write on my phone exclusively, and I think this is like the perfect time to use this medium to write, because like we really take our phones for granted. Like, they can do so much stuff, and we just use them to like mindlessly scroll. Why is there a piece of lint in my... Okay. I literally forgot that the scene I'm writing is supposed to have a very big reveal, and I don't know how to introduce it without making it seem a little too convenient. Like, I feel like I've had similar scenes to this in the past in this book. I don't really want it to be a repeating pattern where these plot twists are kind of introduced all in like the same way, but I'm not totally sure how I can vary it, so I guess I kind of just have to think it over. I'm just trying to think. Like, I think I've been thinking a lot about other books because I've been watching Steph I don't know how to say her name, but I've been watching Steph's Vlogmas, and she did a Harry Potter movie marathon with Kylie. So they watched all the movies, and I guess I've just been thinking kind of about Harry Potter, because when you really think about it, there are so many things that you can put into a book. Like, you can have a whole magic system, create a whole new language, basically write anything into existence. Like, yes, I'm writing a fantasy, but I feel like every book that I'd want to write is mostly grounded in reality. Like, I'll write a fantasy book, but it won't necessarily be high fantasy, usually where they're like elves or goblins or something, mystical creatures. Like, yes, there are mystical creatures in my book, but they're very based on our reality or like dreams I've had where I'm like, if something like that happened, that would actually be terrifying. So I feel like a lot of times I don't try stretching my mind creatively enough, because I just try to make everything as realistic as possible, because in my mind that makes it the most unsettling. Like, when things are almost uncanny to reality, like it seems like something that could almost happen in the real world. And I do feel like that kind of limits my thinking, like my path of reasoning, when I'm trying to come up with new ways to do something within my book, because it's kind of constraining myself to a very specific thing. But I feel like I need to think outside the box, but then kind of rein it back to so that it makes sense with my book. The problem is I'm not even sure how I would start doing that. Half the times I feel like when I write a serious scene, it comes across as not paced well or the dialogue is really rough, and I know that I'm going to be editing, but it just is kind of throwing off the vibe when I feel like I'm reading back over my work and it's not fitting the mood that I'm going for, if that makes sense. I very much use like the last few paragraphs that I wrote as a basis to continue my writing sessions, and I never necessarily end off at the end of a chapter and then start. Like every time I finish a chapter, I start the next one just because I want to have some jumping off point and not be staring at a blank page for too long. So I feel like you gotta continue on to the next chapter when you finish a chapter. But sometimes if the last thing I wrote for the beginning of that chapter was not very good, it just throws me off a little bit. I might have to like take out my brainstorming journal or something and just try to contemplate how I'm going to introduce this character that I want to introduce right now. I don't know how I can make it more high stakes or more scary, but I don't know. I guess a lot of writing to me feels like creating a puzzle where you have to make the pieces and then slot them into place, which I guess is the same as creating any creation, like any construction thing that you would have to build. I guess you can buy the pieces, but like why am I trying to talk in metaphors? I think this is me procrastinating. I wrote probably 100 words just now. I might just end this here. If I'm ending it here, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this deliberation, me talking about my books, this very chaotic, jumbled, and random vlog. If you guys have any videos, ideas, let me know, because I'm trying to vary up my content a little bit. I know I mostly do writing diaries, which are really fun and very helpful for getting me to keep writing and keeping me motivated, but I'd also like to try some other sorts of videos just to have fun, I guess. So if you have any ideas for me, please do let me know. I'd love to hear them. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope your project's going well, and I hope you have an awesome, I hope you have an awesome writing month this month. Bye!